And welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Midwood. Now, we are going to look at transformative leaders and how they are impacting the society in various areas. Now, my guest today, his life was marred with cases of drug abuse and alcoholism. But after years of rehabilitation, he is now on the front line advocating for a drug-free life. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Denises Story. He's a prisons officer and the executive director of Youth Against Drug Abuse in Kenya. Good morning, Bwana Mwiti.
Good morning to you, Mike.
Welcome to Good Morning Kenya.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Yes.
I thank the Lord.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Now, to start off,
yes.
Who is Denises Story?
Denises Story, as you've said, number one, is the executive director for YADA Kenya. Yes. That is Youth Against Drug Abuse Kenya. Dennis is a minister of the gospel.
Yes.
And professionally, as you've said, Dennis is a prisons officer. And most importantly, Dennis is a recovering drug addict.
Now let's get a little bit into your story.
Yes.
How did you find yourself in drug abuse?
Okay, how I found myself into drug abuse, let me say, drug abuse has got stages. Obviously, the first stage is experimental stage.
Okay.
And the reason why I experimented drugs first was because I wanted to fit in a particular circle of friends. That's what we brought as peer pressure. And this is after realizing I was so much multi-talented. And being the school entertainment captain, then I believed that there is a group of boys that I really, or rather I should be identified with. And you see, then I come from Tunazita Shags, from the interior of the community. Yes. So we believe that everyone who runs in the entertainment industry then should be Mutu ametoka town.
So your case started right in high school?
Yeah, it started back in high school.
How did that affect your studies?
It affected my studies because I really scored dismally. I did not score as was expected. That's in the year 2011. I did my Form 4 in 2012, and Mr. Micah scored a D+. And my potential, let me tell you the truth, people in drama are very good in cramming. So if I transferred my cramming skills in books, then yeah, I was a high material. Yes. Because primary, I just passed with 350 marks plus. I later on got back to class again the year 2013 and scored a C, still under struggles.
So even when you were joining the police force,
yes,
you were still struggling.
I was struggling, yes.
And how was that experience? Now you're joining the police force.
Yes.
You have a problem.
Yes.
You have not even acknowledged that you have a problem.
Yeah.
How did you find? How was that transition? You're in the police force and you're still using.
Actually, let me say it's the prison force. Yeah, yes. They are all like the police. It's a disciplined force. So. Yes. Specifically the prison unit, before I joining it, let me say I was struggling, that's true, and I found myself into pits severally, but the 9 months of intensive paramilitary training really boosted and prolonged my life. If it were not of it, I don't think I could be alive today.
So getting to a some sense of getting saved.
Yes.
Now let's talk about interpersonal relationships.
Yes.
When it comes to drug use.
Yeah.
You find that there's a way that drug users relate with people.
Yeah.
In your own experience,
yes.
How did that affect your personal relationship? We are talking about your bosses, your family, your friends, and even your work.
So interpersonal relationship actually is an effect that drugs bring on board. Number one, the first relationship that was affected was between I and my parents. We did not read from the same script. Actually, there are some of the chances maybe from them and some helps that they scaled down because they saw this man then, if we continue or maybe if we support, maybe we will lose him. And it was very, very bad, let me say. When it comes to work, still I've suffered interdictions and even dismissal cases, actually. But I thank God because as we speak, the prison force is considering Dennis back because you see things were not good.
The transformation
the transformation has taken place, and they have seen maybe the Hajj and the force and the gear to see the society is transformed as a whole. So the interpersonal relationship really went down, lack of trust, and people could not believe in me. Let me say, wakati mtu amepoteza trust na wewe, everything now comes to a standstill. Yes.
Now, someone looking at you right now
yes.
will consider you a success story when it comes to recovering drug addiction.
Yes.
Now, from your experiences,
yes.
do you have any mentorship programs that you have undertaken personally to see to in the fight against drugs?
Okay, thank you, Mike. You mentioned something about when someone looks at me, will see as if as a success story. And what I say, sometimes you may see men in suits, but deep inside, actually, most of them are failures. And we might look at men from the outside, and actually, they are whispering loud for help, and we are crying on dry faces. I have a mentorship program that is called My Scars, My Pride. I'm that person who is really happy. I'm that person who is willing to share with a lot of grace the life that I've passed from suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideations. You see homicides, all types of stress of life, because I want to see a youth impacted and transformed. I don't want to base a judgment that the community is basing. Maybe once we look at the addicts and label them as walevi. No, there is much deep that through this mentorship, able to reach, and I'm able maybe to have a one-on-one talk with these people into drug and substance and other forms of addictions.
Let's talk about stigma.
Yes.
Because the society has a way of viewing drug addicts in a certain way, like they are failures in life.
Yes.
They do not understand their stories in any way. Now, how do you address this stigma in your efforts to fight drugs?
Stigma actually is the first root cause for relapse and lapse cases. Today, NACADA is struggling with reintegration of these people as the prisons focus on reintegration of these offenders. Also, NACADA, in the field of addiction, is looking for ways to reintegrate them. Number one, I'm a victim of stigma. Being one of the, candidates of a rehab. After my first rehab program, process back in 2019.
Yes.
I went back to my workstation, whereby I tried our best to boost myself. You see, there's things that we call the recovery capital. And the first recovery capital to every addict is personal recovery capital. So I was able, Mike, to identify myself, to see that God has given me an empowering gift.
Yes.
That's how Yada was birthed. But through it, there are people who came on board actually to bring it down. But I don't blame them, Mr. Mike. Actually, this caused my first relapse. And this is where I tell people, anyone who is in the recovery journey, don't focus on people. Let the process and the journey be personal.
Okay.
You see, I relapsed, and I terribly relapsed. It's like taking poison and expecting Mike to die.
Wow.
Yeah. So stigma is there. And let us stop stigma. Let us support these people in the society.
Now, let's talk about youth against drugs and drugs abuse in Kenya.
Yes.
What is the mission in addressing this vice within the society, and most especially the youth?
Yes.
Because they are the most affected today.
Yeah. That's true. So Youth Against Drug Abuse Kenya, YADA, its mission, first of all, is to strategically have consultations and partnerships with bodies that are taking this as a national vice.
Yes.
That's including the county government, the national government, the church, and even other organizations, may it be the CBOs or the NGOs. So strategic partnership is and engagement is our mission, and our vision is just to educate, equip, and empower the youth. To educate is one, to equip is another, but to empower is also another thing. Once we meet with these substance abuse people, how do we empower them? You see, Mike, when you give me 1,000 shillings, and when you put me a business that is equivalent to that 1,000, tomorrow I can raise 2,000 from that thing. So that's what I call empowerment.
Yes.
And Youth Against Drug Abuse Kenya, it's an NGO and also a Christian-based organization. We are doing the normal awareness with professionals on board, the psychologists, the psychiatrists, the counselors, entrepreneurs, every profession on board. But allow me, without any fear of any contradiction, to say I realized I can be booked for rehab services and programs more than 100 times if I don't recognize the power in the blood of Jesus.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about rehabilitation.
Yes.
What types of rehabilitations are there?
Actually, there are 3 types of rehabilitations. Number 1, we have the substance use rehabilitations. Those are rehabs that are only meant to deal with people that are struggling with substance abuse disorders.
Okay.
What we call substance use disorder, it's that thing that comes up after someone takes the drug of abuse. Maybe inaweza kuwa the physical, not meeting the most noble task, maybe at job or family. Now it has turned to be a substance abuse. So there are rehabs of that kind. Number 2, we have the enhanced rehabs. These enhanced rehabs, yes, they deal much with substance abuse. They can also handle mental disorders. You see, there is substance use disorder and mental disorder, and when both are in one person, they are called co-occurring mental disorders. Okay. So in the enhanced, they can treat the mental, but majorly, or they will prefer referring. You see, they treat one first and then the other one comes. But now we have the integrated rehabilitations that I say and plead that they come up, especially through the second, our second lady, that's Dorcas, maybe Mrs. Gashagwa. Yes. I had that talk of every ward come up with a rehabilitation. Now, an example of an integrated rehabilitation is the Madari Hospital, whereby it can handle substance abuse and the mental disorder at the same time, whether parallel or sequential. So, and it's good for Kenyans to know, most of the people with substance abuse disorder, they have at least one mental disorder.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, talk about the initiatives that, as the executive director,
yes,
that YADA Kenya has held with bodies like NACADA, county governments. Yeah. What specific initiatives do you have right now?
Our initiatives, majorly, we are focusing on the reintegration part of it for treatment, because it's a future goal that we will have maybe our own treatment facility that is integrated.
Yes.
With the county government of Meru, the last regime, let me say, we were able to hold some sports activities. Why do we major into sports activities? We want something that can bring the youths together. You see, we are told if you want to reach human being, first feed the stomach.
Yes.
So even for the youth, we have to look for something that really brings them together. So we've done some sports activities. We've promoted talent the positive way.
Yes.
You see, talent promotion is a diverse thing.
Yeah.
We can nurture talents, but end up to memaliza our
yes, yes.
The next generation will not be there.
Yes.
Also, in the reintegration program, we have a lot of trainings. We have a lot of baseline surveys that we conduct, especially in churches, with the community and the society. And it's a progressive thing that we are into. And soon we will be having more and more counties on board.
So how many counties have you covered so far?
So far, we are in Kiambu, and Meru, and Nairobi. We are looking forward to Nyeri and Murang'a, because they are also it in one way or the other, and Mombasa also county.
Have you ventured into learning institutions, especially the high school kids? What has YADA been doing in terms of drug abuse related initiatives in high schools? So
in high schools, the program that I talked of, the mentorship program, My Scars, My Pride, that is under something that is called the Handrus program, is a program that is run by YADA and YADA alone.
Yes.
The Handrus program is spearheaded by me as the captain. This is by Andrew from the Bible. After meeting Christ, he went looking for his brother, telling him he had met the Christ.
Yes.
So after the rehabilitation process and program, then I'm sourcing for other partners, for other potential candidates for other clients who at least have tasted your pande yetu ya addiction, and now they are ready to advocate. So in high schools, yes, we've visited several by showing them that once you see drug addicts in the youth, it did not start at the youth stage. Actually, most of addiction start at the teen age. This is the age of experimentation. This is the age of whereby everyone wants to know what happens. Yeah.
Now, talk about you are a prisons officer.
Yes.
And you might have witnessed cases where inmates are getting into. How do you handle that as a police officer in the first place? Because you want to enforce the law, and still you want this person to be reformed. But there are those that will get into drug abuse in the process.
Okay, Mike, let me say, really, being a prisons officer, it's not a mistake, because I feel my heart is fully with the prisons. Why? Because of the inmates that are there. There is a time I had a program at Merujike prison that was called Team Sober Support Group, whereby I identified a group of inmates that are really attested to me and said, if it were not of a substance intoxication, then I could not be in prison. And without any fear of contradiction, let me say 100% of people in prisons, 70% are there because there was a substance-induced substance somewhere. Kuna mahali kadawa fulani kalitumika hii ya kulevya. And someone confesses and says, Dennis, please, if I was not under influence of alcohol or bang, I could not be in prison here. Why? Because once the person was intoxicated, then the judgment of that sin, ama the crime, was not well. These things interfere with our cognitives, and they interfere with how we make judgments. So with the prisons, we are looking forward to working with them more and more, training them, the inmates and the officers also, and looking for better reintegration for these people. During that time, I also worked closely with the officer in charge then. I believe Saizi Akomoya prisons is called Mr. Gerard Gechonge, and the officer in charge, Meru JK prison, Mr. Saitoti, to identify the officers that were really challenged. And we offered them a platform to go and get rehabilitation service. You see, let us not judge people as employers. Let us give them time to maybe heal and to get help. Now,
Yada Kenya.
Yes.
How does it promote a positive and a productive outlook to the society, especially when it comes to drug abuse?
How we promote is, number one, we are looking forward to helping the government decongest the prisons.
Okay.
You see, treatment is expensive, prevention is cheaper.
Yes.
So we are doing a lot of prevention. Even the government feeding the prisoners is expensive. That money can be used for other projects. Number two, minus this. You see, drugs and crime, they work hand in hand. It's like hand and glove, you see. So once we scale down on these things, then most of the things, even including the early pregnancies, girls are being impregnated because they are just cheated on, and wananunuliwa tu pombe raisi hapa na rave kidogo, and then they mess up their life. So that is what, for me, I say drug is the central focus of the enemy to spoil and maybe work against the true and the real intention and the identity and the image of our Creator.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, let's shift gears, and you are a minister of the word.
Yes.
How do you, or how can the clergy use these efforts to create an unjudgmental environment, a chance for people struggling with addiction, where they can go get hope and seek help?
Mike, number one, I will quote Miles Monroe.
Okay.
Miles Monroe said, being a clergy, number one, is a calling. And a clergy has to have a backup, a certain backup of maybe something, maybe sociology, so that you can understand the cultural practices of a certain culture. Maybe psychology to understand maybe different behaviors. So number one, I will really appeal that our clergy people start maybe engaging into trainings, especially that really work hand in hand with human psychology and human sociology. They will help us so that we cannot demonize everything. You see, in Kenya, everything is demonized. Yes, there is the aspect of demons. Shetani anatumia hiyo njia anapiga the addiction part of it, but it's not every addiction that is demon. No. So as Yada, actually what we are doing, we are coming up with a program to sit down the pastors and all the clergies, maybe who are when you want the psychology part of it, and at least share some bits and some short courses on psychology, and so that they can be able to sit with that person and understand. You cannot just judge this is demon. At least take some steps and understand the background, the genetics, the history of these people.
Yes.
And once they come in our church, I know of churches that once they sniff and realize this person is intoxicated, then they will chase you away.
Yes.
Mike has struggled with addiction. When I'm in the pulpit, I could get out of the pulpit, take a smoke of bangi, take a smoke of cigarette, my friend, and come back and continue. The calling is in me, but the devil is aiming. And I thank my spiritual mentor that time. He never judged me. He told me, Dennis, no matter what, we shall make it. So that's what we want as youths.
Yes.
We want where we can just go to more of a family church, whereby we are. You see, my mother will not rebuke me. Mama yangu hata nikataa because I'm an addict.
Yes.
At the head of the day, I'm the son. So even the church, let us offer this platform. And that is why Yada, we are looking to going for them. Christ said, I came for the lost.
Your organization,
yes,
does it have any initiative where they train ministers of the word in a way that they can help both the addicts and the families? Because addiction affects even the families. Do you have that initiative in a nutshell?
We have that program.
Yes.
That will be launched soon. And I'm also targeting some key partners that have really made it in that area, like the Sprint Through Africa. They are very good when it comes to equipping the word. You see, so as you said, it's true. We cannot, if you are not infected, you are affected.
Yes.
As a youth, if I'm infected, then my family is affected.
Yes.
Yeah.
How can anyone watching you right now
and
seeks help reach you or your organization?
To reach me at a phone number?
You can give your phone number.
Yes, my phone number is 0728 753 873. Social media handles, we have Yada Kenya, and personal is Missionary Dennis Kiama, everywhere.
Yes.
Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, yes.
Thank you so much for joining and coming to share your story with us and the efforts that you are doing in fighting drug abuse.
Yes.
Now, we have been talking to Dennis Mwiti, who is the Executive Director of Youth Against Drug Abuse in Kenya, on the Transformative Leadership segment. Don't go too far. I've been your host, Mike Migwe. Vivian comes back with the next segment. Good morning.